Welcome everyone to the first of our Armchair Tour Series. The ULI's signature hard hat tours have provided insight into the region's latest developments for some time now. Unfortunately, the current situation prohibits visitation of many of the construction sites we would normally have been to. And so the intrepid team at the ULI has created a series of virtual tours to help our members stay connected to the region's most exciting and emerging developments. I'm sure you all enjoy it. And by the way, your shoes aren't going to get nearly as muddy. And today for the first project to be shared is the Quarry Trails project by Thrive Companies and the Franklin County Metro Parks. As always, I'd like to thank our annual sponsors. This webinar is free to all thanks to their generous support and the continuing support of our members. And thank you all for that. I'd also like to thank Steve Bollinger and Tim Moloney for leading today's tour. I'll admit I was fortunate to get an actual tour of the site a few weeks ago, and it is truly amazing. It'll be a tremendous resource for the community when it's completed. And so without any further ado, I'd like to make the sort of awkward Zoom handoff to Mark Lundeen, co-chair of the ULI Programs Committee. Mark?
Thanks, Keith. Really appreciate everyone being here today, and the attendance is amazing, and we're really excited to talk with Tim and Steve about this great development project. I did want to just give a couple minutes on the difficulty involved in developing the site. As many know, I'm the economic development administrator for the city. And prior to Thrive and Metro Parks partnership, about once a year, a different developer would come to us with a plan for the site. And obviously none of them went anywhere. A lot of the reason behind that is because of the active quarry, as well as some of the major environmental challenges that Steve and Tim are going to talk to you about. But I think more than anything else, it's about the unique partnership that they formed to bring both public and private benefit to the site. With that, I want to make everyone aware that we will have a presentation from Tim and Steve, and then we will be taking questions. You can submit your questions via the chat. And we'll accumulate all the questions and then do a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, welcome Steve Bollinger and Tim Moloney.
All right, let me get into the switch over. Everybody able to see the screen? Just thumbs up. Great. I'm Steve Bonger. I am the project lead for the Quarry Trails project. I have been with Thrive Companies, which prior to this was Wagenbrenner Development, for about 7 years now. This is definitely a project that's close to my heart. I try and get out west as much as possible for mountain biking, snowboarding, rock climbing and everything, just because typically you can't do much around here unless you go into Pennsylvania or down into Kentucky. Whereas I think what is special about this project is really the ability to do it out our front doors. So as Tim and I go through this, I think all of you will be able to see just the amount of amenities and the amount of thought that has gone into this park and how we're trying to make it as natural of a setting as possible. So, Tim, if you want to give a little intro for yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Tim Moloney. I'm with Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks. I generally like to say at this point, I have the best job in all of Central Ohio. I'm fortunate enough to get to work with our current 19 Metro Parks throughout Central Ohio, about 28,000 acres. Here in the next 6 or maybe 8 months or so, we're going to be at 20 parks. And that's what we're here to talk today about is Quarry Trails. And I think one of the most significant items to talk about Quarry Trails, and it's a great map to show it, is its proximity to hundreds of thousands of people. This orange mass in that upper left corner on your screen is give or take within 5 miles of 350,000 people. So 5 miles, put that together, a short little drive, a bike ride, a good walk. This will then put a metro park within about 5 miles of everyone in Franklin County. There's a couple little holes mixed in throughout there, but Quarry Trails really fills a hole of getting people outdoors. And as we talk more about the project, it's a unique outdoors for everyone to take advantage of.
And so, Mark kind of made reference to about once a year, it was developers coming into his office and wanting to talk about the opportunity of developing this, a little history on it in the sense of actually getting the land was, roughly a little over 20 years ago, Dave Thomas actually wanted to turn this into a golf course because he wasn't allowed to become a member over at Scioto. And so more or less since then, people have always thought of it as potentially for a golf course. The issue with that is that it was still an active mine. People were still getting aggregate out of it. Back in 1980, it kind of switched over to a group that eventually Shelley and Sands have been the current mining operation. But the thing that's been incredible working with them is that they recognized that they were off the ground to the south and the site, and they were willing to open it up to create an amenity to the site. So roughly, 5 years ago, we got into some serious conversations with different groups in the area, looking at it as continue to be a golf course, and then recognize that this quickly could turn into a park. And working with Tim and his group, and we were able to purchase the ground back in 2017. But I think, Tim, you mentioned the other day something about in the 20s about the development.
Yeah, and nobody likes bragging about how efficient and quick Metro Parks is. So I've got a magazine article here from Columbus Today, which I didn't even know was a magazine or a periodical back. It's dated May 1939. And that's as far back as I can see. This was called for to be a metropolitan park. The irony of that is there were no metro parks in 1939. We didn't even form until 1945. But Central Ohio, documented, has been calling for this to become a community park since the 30s. Utterly amazing that this 600-700 acre mass of land has really done it all in 150 give or take years.
And so with that, the history of the site as a whole, most of our landmark architectural structures that are happening both downtown at Ohio State actually came from the limestone from this site. So it opened in the mid 1800s. Portions are still active today that we'll touch on in a little bit from Shelley Materials. But, it's the Ohio Stadium, the State House, Levesque Tower, all have been built with the limestone that's here today. So Tim, I'm going to let you run through the next couple slides, but.
Yeah, so, and Steve hit on it, that this is a project that we Metro Parks has never done anything like it. I know Thrive has never done anything like this, to where from the get-go, we went in this together as a partnership. And it's not built as a development. It's not built as a park. From day one, we've decided to build this landmass as both of those intertwined together, which can get a little bit confusing because how we generally develop a park is to aggregate a mass of land, put in trails, put in picnic features, different items for people to use. And not speaking for Steve and his group, but their job is to maximize density, get people in there, and have their return. So for us to be able to marry this up, and this slide really shows it, anything you see in green is either in private development or park development. The others are either existing development. The big gray mass to the left is the active quarry. And through some negotiations, through some just really what was left over by the quarrying operation, it turned into where it makes sense. The upper right corner is the development that Steve's going to talk about. The lower right corner is what we're calling our lakes area, or the 62 acres that really going to take advantage of these quarry lakes, some scenic overlooks, a really cool waterfall. The center green that you see, the top half is going to be more like a traditional metro park with picnic areas, pavilions, trails, access to the river. That's, over 2 miles of river frontage there that's going to become part of the Dublin or the Scioto Trail. And then when you get to the lower middle part, that's kind of our high adventure area. You're going to see kayaking, canoeing, rock climbing, rappelling. What we're considering, and it's not under shovel, it's almost finished, a really extreme mountain biking area that instead of taking advantage of rolling hills that you see a lot in mountain biking, it's going to take advantage of the remnants from the quarrying with big giant boulders, cliffs to jump off of. Once again, Steve is going to be our guinea pig where he's going to go down. He'll have the first accident or two on it, and we'll see how good the OSU medical services are after Steve has those. But it's just going to be an incredible place in that center section because of part of the quarrying remediation. We've got a 300-foot long north-facing hill. Well, north-facing in central Ohio, if we ever get snow, it's going to be the coolest sledding hill you've ever seen. But the other 9 months of the year, it's going to be used for fitness. We're going to put in a massive set of stairs for people to run up and down. We're even investigating the possibility of how do we do year-round sledding, and whether that's in some type of synthetic material, whether that's in some type of carpet, we don't know yet. But really, to get those 350,000 immediate neighbors and all of central Ohio into this space to engage not only with a metro park, but the development opportunities that are going to exist throughout it. And I think that's a nice transition to Steve. You talk a little bit about where that development's going to marry up with a metro park.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tim. I'm going to leave it on this slide here for a moment, but Tim touched on it, how this was kind of the natural area for development. The reason why I say that is because this was actually about 70 acres of it was a old landfill. And so there obviously had to be quite a bit of remediation. The growth wasn't anything, I guess, mostly invasive species. The cap was very low at that point in time. So a lot of environmental issues went into the site. And that's kind of where we decided, hey, that's the best place for our footprints of these buildings. So we've worked with Ohio EPA. We've worked with the Ohio Water Development Authority to create a brownfield loan at a low interest rate that's allowed us to create this space. We are about 80 to 90% complete with our what we'll call DDC, the deep dynamic compaction. With that, what happens is they literally just pick up a 30,000-pound weight and drop it down the size of about a queen mattress over and over again, and then fill with good solid material that gets us to a compaction level that's suitable for being able to construct on this site. We've done hundreds of borings and test pits and sampling the soil, and continue to do so even today as we start this vertical construction. We have professionals out on site every day, making sure that we're doing things properly. The Ohio EPA will be signing off on our no further action letter, and then the covenant not to suit, obviously, at the end. That will make it available to people coming in and being able to live on the site through the apartments, the townhomes, the flats, and the detached single family homes. So what do we have really? So we right now have about 80 acres of potential development. 26.1 of that acreage is in the first site or first phase. We have about 11,000 square foot community center that you see here with a pool. We have about a 43,000 square foot office space that you see here. And then we have 4 retail pads that range between 6,100 to 2,200 square feet a piece. What we really focus in on, though, is the metro park. I mean, we're ecstatic that we can develop on the land and we can get people living nearby. But the fact is our greatest amenity is really going to be the park itself. So what we've kind of done as it relates to the townhome flats as well as the detached homes is we've there's going to be some larger homes, but the reality is the outdoor space isn't huge for each lot. What we want people to do is get out on their front porches. We want them to get into the green spaces and make their way to the park for their recreational activities. There's always the question of how much are these things going to be. So I figured I'd put it out there now, and hopefully that answers a bunch of people's questions. But we're planning to start sales sometime in Q2, Q3 of 2021. We have broken ground, and this is probably the best exhibit for that. The dashed line is about 26.1 acres. We have broken ground on all 293 apartment units. These 9 buildings that I'm outlining here with my mouse are the first 9 apartment buildings that we'll be doing. 293 units, hopefully people being able to move in late Q3, early Q4 of 21 on the apartment side. We have broken ground on these 2 first buildings. There's a townhome that roughly is about 2,000 square feet. And then there's flat product that has, garages on the first floor, 12 units total. And they'll range from 1,250 square feet to about 1,500 square feet. And then we have our detached section. So this is our first block of what you can more or less assume to be single family homes. Inside of that, we're breaking ground on the first 4. We are more or less framed on the first 2. We look to be able to start sales and have a model open, like I said, late Q2, early Q3 of 21. I could go on and talk about this development in the park, and I know that Tim and I are super excited, but really the best thing to do is for you guys to be able to see it yourself. And so what we did is we were able to take a drone. This is what you see today, and this is what it's going to become. We work with a group called Immersa. They do a video game engine system, and they actually have taken our CAD files, not only on the site civil side, but also architecturally, and been able to put this into more or less the real world environment. We've worked hand in hand with Tim's group, Burgess and Nipel. MKSK has been working with us on, feel and look as well. And that creates the synergy between the park and the development. So this is just running through everything that we got. I'm sure Tim has some comments with it.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, the uniqueness of this, that it is truly, you could say it one of 2 ways. It's a park within a community, or it's a community within a park. And we're really looking at it as a community within a park. Nowhere do we have a setting where there's going to be hundreds of residents, for lack of a better term, inside the gate. And Steve kind of talked about one of the questions you get a lot. We've got another question we get a lot. What are you going to do? Our parks close at 8 to 10 o'clock every night. We're not going to close this park at 10 o'clock at night. This will be our first 24-hour park. Now, does that mean that the kayaking and canoeing and rock climbing are going to go on at 3 in the morning? No. But we know there's going to be residents here who want to walk their dog or go to the dog park at night. Or there's somebody who gets up early in the morning and they want to use the trails early. This is all that collaboration between the 2 entities. This slide right here shows that development growing right into the park, with park visitors taking advantage of some of the amenities the development has, as well as the development taking advantage of the park amenities. I know Mark is just our host today, but this is all within the city of Columbus. And it's a unique project for the city of Columbus to work with entities such as Metro Parks and Thrive. And I think Mark would say that challenges have been pretty unique, especially when we start to talk about, who's responsible for what, or how are we going to manage, these development type opportunities. And Columbus has been wonderful to work with on this. For a city the size of Columbus, a community as large as ours and the growing, to have something this impactful inside of the outer belt, right where all of the people live. It's not one of these growth corridors into Delaware County or out into Union County. This is in the heart of Franklin County that we're creating space that, we've talked about for 30 or 40 years, but it's happening today.
Yeah, and I think that collaboration between the city, Metro Parks, ourselves, talking with the West Scioto Area Commission, everybody that's involved has been incredible, and I think people are excited. I know we're obviously excited about the opportunity that we have here, but it's really been people working together to create this. So I know Tim and myself would not be here if it wasn't for those partnerships outside of our own.
Another partnership, which, and we'll probably talk about a little more, is Shelley Materials, which owns the mineral rights here. They're the largest aggregate company in the world, but how they've worked with us has been amazing. It's almost like you're dealing with a family-owned company. Part of taking an active quarry into development or a park, there's remediation that needs to take place. Us working with Shelley as well as the Department of Natural Resources is allowing this, that grandeur of cliff faces to exist well into the future. Unprecedented. And, we as a staff are excited to the management of this. I know I'm speaking for Thrive. They're excited as well about what not only this is going to look like when our first residents and park visitors come in late this year, but in 20 years, kind of the image you're looking at now, that this is going to look amazing as it develops.
Yeah, I mean, with that, I think we'd really like to just open it up and answer any questions some people have.
Great, Steve. We have quite a few questions, so I'll start at the top. Kathy Fox asks, how long will the remaining quarry continue to operate? And then is there a future development opportunity when they have completed the quarrying work?
So you want me to jump on this one, Steve?
Yep.
Yeah, so like I said, with our relationship with Shelley, they have perpetual mineral rights, meaning they can pull mineral out of here as long as they choose to. This is where it could be a gray area. They have removed all of the easy aggregate. Everything from here on out is a challenge to them, whether they have to go deep underground, whether they have to, start to pull the rock out that is not as high quality. There's no way to answer this question, Kathleen, other than there are agreements in place. Once the quarrying ceases to exist, most of that northern half, that gray area on the map, reverts to park space. One of the really neat things about that is when you turn the pump off, which is pumping the water out, you see in that hole there, about 200 acres of this, and that's still going to be up for debate till we start to shut the pumps off, is going to turn into a massive lake. So, a 200-acre lake, 50 foot below the surface, normal grade, is just going to be another amenity for Central Ohio to take advantage of, with some limited development opportunities up along the rim.
Tim crushed it. I don't have anything to add.
Thanks. Second question is from James DeGraw. With the brownfield compaction, does that mean slab on grade, no basements for the single family homes?
Yeah, it's going to be all slab on grade. We'll have anywhere from 2-bedroom to 4-bedroom options that people can build on.
And then he also wants to confirm the school district that this property's in.
Hilliard School, City of Columbus taxes, all the for sale product will have a 15-year, 50% tax abatement that's getting passed on to them.
For Tim. So what are the connections to this park, to other park systems and trails and downtown?
So, early on I talked about that green corridor up along the river is going to become part of the Scioto Trail. The Scioto Trail today terminates at 5th Avenue. City of Columbus is studying how to get from 5th Avenue to that southern point of the Quarry Trails project. Then as you head north, we're anticipating it's going to work its way westerly and then jump on the soon to be Heritage Trail, which currently runs from Plain City to downtown Hilliard. So in the not too distant future, you could see downtown Columbus being connected to Plain City along the Heritage Trail and the Scioto Trail. As for neighborhood connections, there's going to be multiple points of entrance to get to the park. First one being off of Treview Road, down by the river. The second one kind of along the bend in Dublin Road. It's by Peabody Landscaping or the existing apartment complex. And then the third, which will be one of the main entrances, will be right off of Roberts Road, which is currently used for the quarry access. But that signalized intersection is actually part of the park development. So easy access from 3 different areas. I know the city of Upper Arlington is looking at how can they connect from the east in an easy way.
All right, Tim, that rolls right into the next one, which is, will there be sidewalks along Treview both to the east and the west?
Steve, I'm pretty sure that the county engineer, along with the city and us, are working on that Treview Road bridge, which then involves pedestrian amenities of how to get in that immediate area.
Yeah, we, I don't know, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, had a meeting with the county engineers, and they are working on both bridges from along Treview from 33 to be able to connect in with sidewalks. I know that one of the big pieces is along Treview, more or less from where our main entrance is going to be on Quarry Trails down to Dublin. And how does that work? Because you have steep slides on on both sides. So we're trying to figure out the best connecting point, whether that's coming into our site and getting down into the park, or is there ability to have a sidewalk along the road there on Treview?
Just want to mention too, Steve, that a group of partners, including the city of Columbus, are going to be doing a larger Treview corridor mobility study.
Yep.
And that's going to stretch from this area of Treview all the way out to Hilliard Rome Road. So pretty significant study there. Next question is, will Columbus need to buy the north property in years to come?
Are we talking if we're talking, this north 300 or so acre of quarry ground, that is already currently purchased. And we are the landowners, but as Tim mentioned, Shelley and Sands have perpetual mineral rights to it.
And I think of note, part of our purchase agreement, we've already negotiated the transfer of that property to Metro Parks. That was baked into the original purchase deal at a grand value of, I believe, $1, if I'm not mistaken, Steve. Say that on the record here because we're recording this.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to add more connectivity to the roadway system through the site? So I think within the quarry.
So yes, and Steve will jump in, overtalk me. The entire concept of this park private development is pedestrian connectivity. So if you want to take your cursor into your 70 acres, all of those greenways and all of those roadways connect into the main drive, which then connect into the park. So it encourages pedestrian movement versus vehicular movement. There'll be on-street parking. There's going to be some off-street parking. But our goal with all of our residents there is they're going to be able to walk to the site. And beyond walking to the site, there's going to be scenic overlooks all along Quarry Trails Drive, overlooking these lakes, overlooking the park features, boathouse, kayaking, canoeing, all of this. And really, then if you jump to the other side of the lakes, that's under construction today, where we're building an entire trail system throughout this park with internal trails, internal bridges, some of those paved, some of those dirt, some of those, limestone screenings. Once you get into the park, it's going to feel a lot like a metro park where we want to move people around. The difference being, this isn't the 7,000 acre Battelle Darby Park. It's not even the 600 acre, Sharon Woods. So your trail systems are going to be a lot more compact and frankly, more robust.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest pieces and why we kind of created the development that we did is that connectivity of the east to west and getting the ability to get to the river, but at the same time get into the park. We really wanted to make it feel as if it was an extension of the park, hence why we created these green boulevards, sidewalks and everything on the main thoroughfares with the streets. But to Tim's point, I mean, we have a substantial amount of trails and bike paths and things of that nature going north south, but also that connectivity east west is important.
There's a number of questions about the phasing. So Tim, maybe you could go through the phasing of when the Metro Park's going to open, and then Steve talk about the phasing of the private development.
So you're really putting Steve and I in a pickle here, because this is kind of that standoff game. We, Metro Parks, have made the commitment all along that we intend on opening this park to the public the day residents start moving into the development. Now, I think most people on this call realize how tough it is to coordinate an opening date for your individual project. Imagine when two entities like Metro Parks and Thrive are trying to marry these up. But that is the goal. And Steve had a slide up earlier showing that first phase of development. That's really where we're focusing our first phase of opening a Metro Park. It's a lot easier for us to open up our trails and items like that, but we're really focusing on that, right? What's up on the map there, to get open right about the same time Steve's opening his side.
Yeah, and for us, like I said, I mean, we're feeling confident that it is, Q3, no later than Q4, being able to get this open. I mean, we are going as fast as we can with some of these apartment buildings, and think that we should be able to get in, late summer. With some residents moving in and getting the site buttoned up as it relates to the infrastructure, roadways, curb and street, and making it a space that everybody can come to the park and take advantage of, not just for our residents. So to Tim's point, we're talking. I don't know. We probably talked the past 2 weeks, three or so times, talking about, hey, are we still on schedule? Is this working out with both of our construction? We're meeting weekly on Tuesdays to discuss this. So we're working hand in hand, and I think that that summertime is going to be when we can fully launch this.
Great. Another question just came in from Jody. Will there be some process to discourage park users from parking their car in the development versus the dedicated Metro Parks areas?
As of today, we're hoping we all play nice, but the reality is we have parking all over the place. I mean, Metro Parks is putting in an incredible network of parking areas for their development, where they think that, the mountain biking, the BMX pump tracks, the walking area. So there's a substantial amount of parking lots inside of the development. Today, we don't have plans of keeping people out per se with permitting and things of that nature. But obviously, as things come, we'll make sure that the residents and everybody on the development is able to park. Otherwise, the development doesn't work, which then takes away from the park as well.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come down to the management, and maybe it's a good point to interject this. And I always get the term wrong. It's not a housing authority, but it's a
HOA.
An HOA that's going to work in perpetuity with Metro Parks on management of this entire site. That in a sense we are not only partners in the development, we're going to be partners in this project for all time, and that's kind of an exciting endeavor for us.
Bob Gorman is asking about the bridges going over the Scioto River. So I think the connections to the east.
Yeah, and I can get on the video again. That gives probably the best. So you can see today there's a rail bridge, and Tim, I don't know if you know the date of this thing, but late 1800s, early 1900s, I believe, was an old rail bridge that the quarry actually operated on. We would love, and one of the or I guess a couple of the trails that the city's proposing as it relates to coming from Fifth Avenue up to the site could actually take advantage of this bridge. The other bridge that we had in the development, that is something that is really going to be up to MKSK took some liberties and would love to be able to connect it into Griggs, which is right across the river from us. But Tim, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, the only other existing, that's a future bridge, but just south of that, Dream Bridge is another old rail bridge that currently is operated by Columbia Gas. It's got a major transmission line going through it. We've had discussions with Columbia Gas about the opportunities there. They haven't gone anywhere. The nice thing is there's 2 existing bridges in place that in a general term would probably be outside of our ability of building. Those would be very expensive bridges to build today. If nothing else, the bridge to the south is going to become a park feature on day one, whether it's just a place for photographs, a place to gather, but the potential for long-term trail development is there as well.
Great. Tim, can you quickly review the features of the park? So you mentioned the mountain bike trails, just where they're located, the sledding hill, some of the other unique features.
Steve, can you drive with your cursor if people can see that? We'll start down the lower 62, down by the river. So down by the river is where Old Milliken Ditch is now going to reconnect with the Scioto River, and working your way up from there, you come into a series of 2 quarry lakes. We've recently connected those 2 quarry lakes, as well as renaturalizing Milliken Ditch, which is the waterfall you've all seen pictures of. So not only are there going to be the lake features, canoeing, kayaking, those types of things, we now have a moving water feature between the 2 lakes. Now, what moving water means to some is different than others, but we will have the ability of turning that into whitewater either seasonally or through a pumping system. Now, don't picture West Virginia, the New River, but picture maybe some class 1 or class 2 rapids for events or for people to work on their boating skills. As you move up to the little pinch point, then you get into what I would say at the top half there of more traditional type metro park. Green, trees, forest. Right where Steve is a big 3-acre dog park. That's recently been graded and seeded. Some nice wood lots, scenic overlooks of the river. Along the river, you've got the Scioto Trail. Then as you work your way down on the map or westerly, you get into that 4-season area of sledding, fitness stairs, fitness hill, a little seasonal skating rink. One thing we haven't talked about is that it's depicted there as an amphitheater, but we're going to have a large shelter there with the potential for amphitheater or some type of, movies, concerts, different things like that, with that 160-foot wall as a backdrop. And then right down at the bottom of the screen, it's tough to see, and this is what's already built, is a pretty extreme single-track mountain biking course. Single track is where you go one direction and then have to come back. It's not a looping trail. And then off of the map, what we're calling Adventure Hill is really the playground for the 21st century. So instead of buying a playground, that's made out of steel and looks like every other one, we're going to take advantage of that hillside to build in climbing boulders, netting, log jumps, just different areas for, kids and adults to play in an environment that they've probably never been able to do before.
Great. I know that Alicia just posted a poll, so if you want to answer that, that would be helpful to ULI. Do we have any more questions? I think we've hit all the ones that I saw in the chat. Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I think our next event that ULI is looking at is our annual real estate trends event in January, which is going to be fantastic event, really important to have that this year, and we're working to get some great speakers for you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Keith to close us out.
Okay, thanks, Mark. As many of you know, prior to COVID, the ULI was working with several community partners to explore the potential of creating a unique series of greenways along the 5 major waterways in Franklin County: the Big Darby, the Saddle River, the Olentangy River, Elm Creek, and the Rocky Fork Big Walnut Corridor. Unfortunately, our efforts were interrupted by COVID, but the enthusiasm has remained. For a while, we thought we could wait out the pandemic, but sadly, that doesn't seem possible. So we're now developing a plan to move forward in the first quarter of next year. With our community partners, we hope to create a unified vision for how all 5 major waterways might one day be connected in a continuous park system. The net result would place a major park and trail system within a mile or 2 of every resident in Franklin County. It's a fascinating opportunity for Central Ohio. So stay tuned, more to come very soon, I hope. And that's a wrap for today. Again, I'd like to thank Mark and Steve, Tim, for their work. And I know we'll all look forward to seeing Quarry Trails when it opens sometime soon. So thank you all.